Does cancel culture exist?
It's incredible to me that anyone would deny that it exists when the evidence is so overwhelming for it. I've been in conversations with people about this online, and there's a couple of threads online which have hundreds and hundreds of examples of people who've lost their jobs out of for something they've said at work or something that's of course it exists. I mean, quite obviously. I think the main complaint of saying, well, no one's been cancelled. Again, that's someone taking a metaphor literally. No one's saying that anyone is literally being cancelled. Cancel culture is a shorthand metaphor for a form, a method whereby when you hear something that offends you or upsets you, typically something quite innocuous or relatively inconsequential. In other words, part of cancel culture is an overreaction, right? So you go in all guns blazing and you don't stop until that person has lost everything, their livelihood, their job, their reputation. Absolutely, it's all got to go because there can be no redemption, there can be no forgiveness. And this happens again and again. And the examples of it are so numerous that it is impossible to deny with a straight face that it doesn't exist. And yet people do. It's the same reason. I mean, people, I hate to say it again, but writers for The Guardian will continually say cancel culture doesn't exist because they are its chief practitioners. Remember, this is a publication that when Suzanne Moore wrote that article, which they all disliked, most of the staff wrote a letter of complaint to try and get her booted out. And then it's the same people who will say that cancel culture doesn't exist. Well, this is hardly surprising because the culture war is largely engineered and motored by people like the people who work at The Guardian. It's their culture war. This is the identitarian left's culture war. But they are the same people who will say the culture war is a right-wing myth. But they're the antagonists. It's nuts.
But J.K. Rowling said loads of stuff. She hasn't been cancelled. Why is she not being cancelled?
Well, you know the answer to that, Chris. She's a billionaire. And as we all know, cancel culture overwhelmingly affects poorer people. And this is the other major myth about it. If you're a celebrity, put someone in the public eye who is financially secure, it's very difficult to cancel. You can't cancel J.K. Rowling. She's the richest author in the world. You can, however, cancel Gillian Phillip, who's the Scottish author who tweeted in support of J.K. Rowling. So she lost her publisher and she lost her agent. That can happen because she's expendable. No publisher in their right mind would get rid of J.K. Rowling. So no, she cannot be cancelled. But that does not justify the venomous misogynistic abuse she gets on a daily basis. I mean, that's still on a human level just morally unforgivable. However, she isn't subject to cancel culture. I will accept that. And the ones who are subject to cancel culture are normally people who don't have the means to stick up for themselves, who don't have the financial resources to do so, who are intimidated because they go into work and suddenly they're facing a tribunal because someone overheard something they said and misinterpreted it. This isn't about someone who's gone into work and starts shouting about faggots and puffs and how they should all be killed and stuff. That's the way it's portrayed. No, it's someone who made a joke that someone's misinterpreted as being homophobic because it hurt their feelings. And so they went and it's a different thing. And it may not even have been about gay people at all. Right. It's the key aspects of cancel culture is that the slight is actually often very small. Right. And also it's possible. I mean, there's a lot of people now talking about how we should not have call out culture. We should have call in culture. And actually, it sounds a bit tacky, but there's something in that. Insofar as if you're in the workplace and someone says something that upsets you or offends you, you call in, you go over to them and say, look, what you said bothered me a bit. Can we ever talk about it? And you resolve your things that way. Calling out would be screenshot the email, put it online, let everyone know that this person is evil and should be fired and hounded. And that's quite a good distinction to make because that's what we used to do. I mean, I've had disputes at work. I used to be a teacher. I used to work in a call center. I've had disputes with people and I've took them to one side and said, can we discuss this? And sometimes I've been right and sometimes I've been wrong. But you reach a resolution because we're human beings and we can deal with conflict. And there's no such thing as a human relationship that is devoid of conflict. But if my initial reaction was always, I want to see that person fall, I want to publicly shame that person, I want them to suffer, that's not justice, that's revenge. And I think that's what is at the heart of this. And that what we mean by cancel culture is this general propensity to seek vengeance for a perceived slight that may or may not have been a slight in the first place. It may have been just the way that you perceived it. That's what cancel culture is, and it happens all the time. So we need to, again, go back to what I said, start from scratch. The idea, things we shouldn't accept, that the culture war is a right-wing myth, that cancel culture does not exist, that anyone is calling for free speech without any kind of consequences or criticism. None of those things are at all true, and yet they are stated as though they are true. And this comes back to a very important problem that we face. And they gave us a word for it, didn't they? The word is gaslighting. that so many people on the identitarian left loved gaslight. They will happily say to you, this is a thing that is happening when it is not happening. Or this is a thing that's not happening when it plainly is happening. They would just deny observable reality, and they will keep denying observable reality so that you start to doubt your own sanity. That's what gaslighting means. It comes from the film Gaslight, where the guy is constantly lowering the lights and his wife's saying, why is it getting so dim in here? And he's saying, it's not, it's just you. So that's what they do. And yet again, they accuse others of gaslighting because that's what they do.